Hi Ritvik, hi Abhishek.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon.
Good
Hi
afternoon.
Nitish.
Hello. Yeah. So Ritvik, can you please introduce yourself? Your brief introduction.
Okay. So, my name is Ritvik. So, I am from Delhi. So, I have total of 5 years and 10 months of experience. So, previously I was working with Amdocs Pune. So, should I explain Roundweb project or what?
Yeah, about your tools and technologies which you have worked so far.
Okay. So, in Amdocs, I was working in two projects. So, one was the application migration project, in which there were 7,000 applications which belong to AT&T. So, AT&T was our client. So they had 23 data centers which were supposed to be reduced to 7 data centers. So we were supposed to migrate 7,000 applications, in which 4,000 were actually selected for the migration. So the contract was distributed amongst 5 companies. So one was Accenture, one was Amdocs, one was IBM, Microsoft, and one other. So we used to migrate those applications from on-prem to Azure. So those migrations involved around 8 to 9 steps. So we started with the IDO onboarding. So IDO onboarding means it was an automated process in which we had to go to the portal and do the certain filling type of things, and the changes, there were some changes which were to be done. And after that, the two types of environments, one were the DevOps prod and one was DevOps non-prod, used to reflect in the Azure portal. And after that, we used to take the golden images from the Azure 00 and make the code in the Terraform, and used to create the various resources for the production environment, and used to migrate those applications to cloud via Terraform. So we had different files for different kind of resources, let's say databases and load balancer and VMs, so all that stuff. So this was the cloud migration project. So there were 7 to 8 steps, and the number of environments were three. One was POC, one was non-prod, and one was prod. And after that, the application was deployed and migrated, and after the cutover of the application, we used to destroy the POC environment. Other project was a BSSC project, which was Amdocs internal product. So that was, was also being migrated from on-prem to cloud. So our task was to do the changes in the Bitbucket code. So we used to, developer used to push their code in the Nexus repository. From there, that was pulled in the Bitbucket, and we used to trigger the pipeline using Jenkins. So in the morning time, we had a call with the QE team, and they used to tell us what are the changes in the code. And so we were supposed to do the changes, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. So after the commit, we used to run the Jenkins pipeline manually, one in the morning time and one in the evening time, and report, and if any issues faced, report those issues in the Scrum meeting, which used to happen 3 times a day. So this is the overview of the BSSC project. Before that, I was working with the KMG IT Services, Gurgaon. So I had joined, the cloud was introduced there. So whatever resources for the production environment were required, both manually and with the automation, I used to deploy them. And they had various clients such as Hughes and Embe. So I used to go there as a deploy on a deputation, and whatever their requirements were, I used to assist them in the deployments wherever I could give my best. So this is the overall experience of the cloud, which includes 3 years, and total experience is 5 years and 11 months. So
Okay.
so rest of the experience is in IT infrastructure only, which includes servers,
Mhm.
desktop support, and networking.
Okay. So coming to Azure, so which of the cloud services you have worked in Azure?
So in the Azure, I have created only the resources for the production environment, and I had a limited access on the Azure portal in Amdocs. So as a platform engineer, my task was to create the resources let's say the VMs are there, load balancers are there, route tables are there, and databases are there. So my core task was that only.
Okay, so have you spin up any of the VM via Terraform till now?
Yes.
Okay, so can you please write that script for us, the Terraform code?
So in the Terraform code, they had the golden images, and from there we used to take the images, and we used to write in the JSON format. I mean, whatever in the Visual Studio code. So for that is I need skeleton code.
Okay, so you are not writing that code. You are getting the code from
So
the golden image.
skeleton code I used to get from the Azure repository, Azure 00 repository, and we had a functional tester who used to give the naming conventions in the Excel file, and from there we used to make the code. So in general, I can give you the overview. So you had asked me to write the code for the VMs. So
Yeah, just spin up a new VM.
so I am telling you the syntax. So first of all, we will write the providers, and one difference is there that in Amdocs we used to keep the separate file for the separate resources, and we used to keep the variables as a dependency. So if you want to destroy any resource, so let's say that load balancer has a dependency on EC2. So first of all, you have to destroy the load balancer in case of any destruction or any conflict was occurring. Regarding Terraform code, you have asked me. So we will first of all write the providers. So the provider here is Azure. After that, we will specify the region, and in that way, in the hierarchical form, we will write the code. And in the AMI ID, I mean in AWS, we use the AMI ID, and we will supply the AMI ID, and all the dependencies will go below that. So in that way, the Terraform code will be written.
Okay, suppose if there is any plugin is there, external plugin, you have to incorporate it in your Terraform code. How we can do that?
So when we write Terraform in it, so the plugins are already installed using Terraform.
No, you have some external plugin that is depend on your organization, and you have to install it via Terraform init. So where you have to keep your plugin and how you can configure those plugins.
So the plugin, I mean this I have not done, but logically we will keep that plugin inside the VM only, because the installation part comes after the VM is created.
Okay. So you are just means you are not sure about it, right?
Yeah, but logically I can say, because it's in a hierarchical. First of all comes the provider, and then comes the VNet, and then comes the EC2. I mean the VNet, because to create all these we have to create our, or in the default VNet, if you want to create, then VNet is not required. So logically, if any plugin is to be installed, so it will come after the VMs. If it has to be installed on the server, and if it is in the general plugin which will be used by the Terraform. So as far as my knowledge is there, when we supply Terraform init command, so the plugins are already installed at that level only.
Okay. What is Terraform init?
So Terraform init is the used to initialize the Terraform. So Terraform init command installs all the plugins and all the dependencies which are used to write the Terraform code.
Okay. Okay, fine. And what is Terraform state file?
So Terraform state file is the file in which all the state and the current status of the file is present. So these kind of files can either be present in the Terraform cloud, or if we are using let's say Azure, so those will be stored in the container. Other than that, if we are using AWS, so those will be stored in the S3.
So suppose you have changed manually or you have deleted the VM from your cloud instance, right? By going and manually deleting the cloud instance. So if you are running the Terraform plan or Terraform apply, so will the state file be updated itself, or it will throw an error for you?
So I have faced this issue. So in Amdocs only, so it will throw an error of the Terraform state. So what I did was I deleted the Terraform state for. I faced this issue in the load balancer. So I deleted the state file for the load balancer and redeployed it again. So the problem is that if you are creating from the code and that goes directly into the Terraform state file, and if you are deleting
Mm-hmm.
that resource manually, so the state file is unaware of that any change has happened. So I mean, and when it is unable to find the resource, so it starts giving the error. So basically, I fixed this issue by deleting the Terraform state file and then go to the Terraform script, delete the load balancer again, and then create it all over again.
Okay. Any idea of about Terraform D?
Terraform D,
Yes.
Terraform destroy, I know. Terraform D, I have
No,
not.
no, no.
Terraform D, I know, don't know. Sorry.
Okay, fine. Apart from this, if I come to Azure, what is Azure Blob Storage?
Blob stands for binary large object.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a kind of an like we have S3 in AWS. So similarly, we have a blob storage in the Azure. So there are several types of storage. One is blob storage, file storage, queue storage, and
Mm-hmm.
tabular storage in the Azure. So blob storage is the object kind of storage in the Azure. So we can keep various types of. Blob storage can be accessed via the internet as S3, and
Okay.
when I was in my project, I was keeping as those Terraform files in the blob storage. Other than that, from HVD, if I wanted to migrate to Azure,
So, which type of data you can store in your blob storage?
so any data if you that you want to access through the browser on the internet, in so that kind of data is stored in the blob storage. So in that we have containers. So
Okay.
other than that, there were some data which was to be migrated to the VMs. So I kept that in the blob storage and created the URL for that, and then I mean migrated. Went to the browser of the server which I had created, and then kept that in my server. And basically, the software dependencies were required to for the server configuration. So for that, I had
Okay.
used.
Okay. So you said you have migrated 7,000 number of
No, no, no,
application
no,
in.
no, no. Let me explain. There were
Yeah.
7,000 applications which belong to AT&T in
Mm-hmm.
23 data centers spread across the globe. So the number
Okay.
of data centers were required to be reduced to 9 for the cost saving purpose. So,
Mm-hmm.
so that was a very large project. So the contract was distributed amongst 5 companies, in which one Amdocs was one of them. And in our bucket, we had 1,000 applications. So they had divided our team into the pods. So in pod, we had one onshore team leader, one offshore team leader, 4 platform
Mm-hmm.
engineers, one database. So in total, I migrated 5 applications end to end, and 5 I helped other engineers for the migrations. So the problem was that the this project was supposed to be completed in 2024, but in
Mm-hmm.
Amdocs they made us to sit 12 hours, and they migrated 1,000 application in a single year only. And only the modernization and optimization tasks are going on as of now.
Okay. So basically you are using Git right now, right? As a in Bitbucket
No, in
for
Bitbucket
your.
the code was already present there. So
Uh-huh.
the in Bitbucket was used in another project which was used in the BSSC project. So in which on the daily basis we used to receive the documentation in which the various types of versioning related changes were there. So we used to
Mm-hmm.
change the code in the Bitbucket, and then we used to commit there only itself. So
So how you manage the merge conflict in Bitbucket?
so I never faced merge conflict in
Mm-hmm.
that Bitbucket, but in Git there were if there were any merge conflict. So in the Amdocs we didn't have that kind of facility. So we used to work in the coordination, and we used to do the Git pull, and
Mm-hmm.
then we coordinated in the meeting, and then we used to I mean merge the changes with our internal coordination. Other than that, in general, if I say, so the Git conflict occurs when you and your fellow engineer are modifying the same file at the same time and pushing that in the at the same time. So for that, it will give you the error that the changes you have done are already present in the central repository. For that, we use the git merging tool as a command, and then we will use the git rebase -- continue after changing your code, and then we can push. So in the mdocs, what happened was we always used to distribute our task in a very meticulous manner. So this kind of conflicts we never faced. But in general, the merging conflicts are always occurring in the company. So either you do the git pull after discussing with the fellow engineer, or go for the git rebase command.
So what is the difference between both of them?
So git merge. So there are a whole lot. There are in total 5 to 6. Differences, but the majority of them being the git rebase will rewrite all the history once again, and git merge will keep the history as it is. Second difference is that the git the git the git rebase will commit the merge the commits one by one in a linear fashion, but in git merge will do in a single go. And if you are using git rebase, then it is not feasible to use the git rebase command in the central repository or any public repository. So let's say you are you are contributing to any project which is public in the GitHub, so never use the git rebase command. At that time, git merge is always feasible. So for that, we can use.
Suppose you have one file in which you have made 10 commits, 10 or 12 commits you have made. So how you can convert it into one single commit in Git?
10 to 12 commits in a single file.
Means you are changing one file and testing it one again and again. So those testing made 10 commits for you. So how you can commit those 10 commits into one single commit? You got my question?
Yeah, I mean,
you have committed one file 10 times, right? The single file only, and it looks very clumsy and it looks very odd by seeing in the repo. So how you can convert those 10 commits into a single commit?
In the central repository. So we will use the merging concept only, but if I have changes, do the changes. So I used to do a lot of changes. So every time I did the changes in my Terraform code, so I always used to push and then work for another commit. But the question you asked, we can use the merging concept only.
Yeah, there is one single command for it.
Okay, I am unaware of it. I mean, or else I am unable to recollect.
So which scripting technology you have worked?
So scripting, I have only the basic knowledge. So back in KMG, I was writing the scripting. So the shell scripting syntaxes I know, and logic I used to discuss with the fellow engineers or take from the Google, and then we collectively used to make the shell script. So if I talk about the syntax, so we will use the shebang. So for that, we write the bin bash in the first line, and the file which we are creating, we will use the .sh, and then for.
So any idea about the PowerShell scripting?
No,
Windows.
A PowerShell. So if I talk about the PowerShell scripting, so in our part there was a separate dedicated way. There was a separate engineer for PowerShell.
So you worked only on the Linux servers, right?
Linux and under shell scripting. I mean, intermediate to basic knowledge I have, and the syntax is all I know. And if you want to give any program, so that logic I used to discuss with back in KMG. I used to discuss with the fellow team, or else take the logic from the Google, and then we used to write the code.
So you can write comfortably. You can write the shell scripting.
Yes, but if I am stuck, so I mean, because
You have to
the
take help from
majority
the
of
web, right?
the, I mean, let's say if I have to write a shell script for the duplicate IP to catch the
Mm-hmm.
duplicate IP, so the logic building is that at the first instance that I can get is that if I will use the if else statements if one variable is meeting to another, and I will create a logic using is equal to, and if the IPs are not matching, else the IPs are not matching. So in that way the logics are built in programming.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Ritvik. So, as you are talking about shell scripting and the logic, would you be able to provide us some logic behind any scenario that we can offer you, and anything that is in the infra we need a logic on.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. In that case, would you able to tell us uh, a logic around I have a file and it has multiple lines, right? But there are some lines which are blank. Two lines and a gap between them. And I would ask you to remove the blank line from the file. What would be your logic, or if you could write the piece of code for us?
So in this scenario also, either we can use the, I mean, while loop or looping concepts, and will set the string, particular string, and it will keep on the counting the, I mean, the words or the alphabets, and as soon as it finds the blank, it will notify us using using a string, I mean in the double quotes. So in that way we can write this script.
Okay. Is there any command that you can use to replace the blank lines and copy that content to some other file? Linux command.
I think as far as I remember, we can use awk command.
Okay. Uh, uh, if you are comfortable writing it, if you could write for us.
No, I mean
Okay.
exact program,
Okay.
so I cannot write, but
Okay. No issues. So let's move to Docker. If you are comfortable, Docker and containers. Okay. How will you ensure that container 1 runs before container 2 while using Docker compose command?
so if we want to, I mean, the container which we want to write first, so in the by YAML file we will keep that image, I mean, on the top.
Uh, I didn't get it. Could you please elaborate further?
So in the Docker Compose we are using YAML files, na?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to, I mean, the create the containers in a sequential manner, then keep the image which I mean the image which you want to create first. So keep those images above in the compose file, or else there are there are three types of versions. So if we want to I mean create the containers in the sequential manner as per our requirement, so we can use other versions also.
Okay. So those versions include that functionality.
Yes, as far as I remember, because in the version 3 we have Docker Swarm functionality, In version 2, this kind of facility we have that we want to deploy in a sequential manner or as per our requirement. And in the version 1 of the compose, it will create all the the all the code sequentially. So for this scenario, I think version 2 will be good.
Okay. 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 What are the Docker container lifecycle stages?
So the life cycle stages include, there are 5 to 6 stages. One is running state, restarting stage, pause state, killed state, exited state. So these kind of stages are there. There are 5 to 6 stages of Docker life cycle.
Okay. Do we have any paused state also?
Yes.
Okay. What does it uh, do actually? What happens when the container is in paused state?
Mm, this I have not faced. Uh,
Okay. No worries. Okay. Can a container restart by itself?
I have not faced this issue. Once I was facing issue, but I restarted it manually, and after that it got working. But
But can it restart by itself?
yes.
Okay. Uh, how can you make sure uh, it should not be started itself, or I want it to be forced restarted by itself?
So for force restart, we can use uh, -f command, but
Okay, no worries. Actually, there are a couple of policies and where we can enable or disable such functionalities. No worries. Let's move ahead. Okay. Let's talk about Jenkins, if you are comfortable
mhm.
on that. Okay. Okay, how can you temporarily turn off Jenkins security if the uh, admin users have logged themselves out
Mhm.
to the admin console?
Uh, then
Yeah, how can you temporarily turn off the Jenkins security?
how to turn off the Jenkins security? No, I have not faced this issue. Hello.
Okay, yeah, okay, no worries. Uh, what else? If I talk about Jenkins, okay, how uh, we know that there are parallel execution of different jobs, right?
Mhm.
In Jenkins or any CI/CD tool.
Mhm.
Okay, uh, and you can set a particular threshold value for running the multiple jobs in parallel, right?
Mhm.
Okay,
Threshold means.
threshold means there should be number of jobs should be running at a particular time.
Mhm.
Okay, how can we set that threshold value in Jenkins?
So
Because we want to avoid load on the server.
so in the Jenkins, we have one timing related facility in which we can set that in after how much time the build will be triggered.
Mhm.
Other threshold I have not used, but I have run parallel pipelines. But a threshold I never created. I have created the time, like in between how much time the Jenkins will check whether any trigger has happened or not, or otherwise used cron expressions for those.
Okay. Okay. Do you have master slave concept implemented in Jenkins in your current organization?
No. So, but yes, in a master slave configuration, so we can have multiple masters also. So if the project is very huge, in that time we can create the master slave configuration.
Hmm. Okay. Are you comfortable writing Jenkins file for us?
Jenkins.
Jenkins file.
Okay. So what I have to write?
Okay. Let's suppose I have a GitLab repository or GitHub repository where whenever someone pushes something in a particular repository, a pipeline should trigger. Okay, and then there could be 3 or 4 steps where it should fetch the code from the repository first, and then running a particular container once the image is downloaded from the repository. Let's suppose it downloads the image from the repository, and it should run the Docker command. And once that is up, it should check the port or the services running on the container. Can you write a Jenkins file for it?
So I can tell you the logic because I think this is a bit complex issue. So first of all, if we want to connect to the GitHub, so we will supply the URL for it and then pull the code from there. And then for Jenkins pipeline, we can use the Groovy. So Groovy is of two type. One is declarative and one is scripted. So in the declarative, we have multiple stages, and for the scripted, we simply write the code. So we will write the multiple stages as per our requirement, and then
Okay. Would you be comfortable writing a piece of code for us just to show us the syntax of how the Jenkins file actually looks like?
uh, wait.
If you could share your screen and show us.
Is it visible?
No.
Hello.
No, it's not
No,
visible.
no, yeah, no, not visible.
Actually, my screen is stuck.
Okay. Can you write something on chat?
No, actually, my screen has freezed.
Okay, can you please rejoin the call and share your screen again?
Wait. Yeah, now is it visible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Notepad is not opening.
Any other ID? Notepad plus plus, Visual Code, anything.
No, it's my personal laptop. So
Just go to the browser and type Notepad, and you will be able to. Yes. Open any tab and open Notepad here. Notepad Online. Not this one, Notepad Online.
okay.
Yeah. Click on the first link. Good now?
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I am giving you the basic syntax of the declarative pipelines of. And where we can have multiple nodes. Hello.
Yes, we are able to see the screen. Yes. Okay.
Yes. So in that way, our code will go. So what our requirement was, first we had to connect the Jenkins with the Bitbucket. So we will
Mm-hmm.
supply the the URL of the that what it was git to the Jenkins, and then if we
Mm-hmm.
want to run any stages, so this will be our basic syntax of the declarative pipeline. And if we want
Mm-hmm.
to run any parallel images, so we will keep the separate curly braces for that. So in that way it will go. And the Jenkins can also be integrated with the Docker. So in there where we have the option to write the script to use the cron expression or the shell script, there we can use Docker also. So in that way it will be doing.
Okay. Okay. Let's move to I see you have worked on AWS cloud as well.
Yes. And back in KMG I was deploying whatever was required, but that was 50% of
Mhm.
manual and 50% of through the code.
Okay, no worries. I have a situation where a particular type of application that periodically processes a large amount of data, right?
Hmm.
And it is across the different EC2 instances.
Hmm.
Okay, or the application is designed in a way that it should recover gracefully from the EC2 instance failures.
Okay.
Whenever there is a failure, it should gracefully recover itself.
Hmm.
So, which type of instances would you use uh, if we consider the cost-effective way to implement this solution? Which type of particular instances would you use?
I will use memory optimized instances because if the application is distributed, we require more memory as against the CPU. And other than that, for the high availability, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
for the scaling, will use the auto scaling because the scenario you have given in that we have EC2 instances failing. So the auto scaling with load balancing is the best solution. Acco-
Mm-hmm.
uh, as and that should be used in parallel with the memory instances.
Okay. Can we use reserved instances for this? Would it be a good solution?
Reserved instances are used for which we reserve for the features. But if what is the exact requirement exactly? It has to be run today, or we have planned the application.
But this is something which should not create a good amount of downtime. So in that way, it should recover itself as soon as possible.
So for that, like I have told you, either keep your instances in a multi-AZ environment, use auto scaling with load balancing, and create a disaster recovery.
Okay.
And for reserved instances, yes, it's a good option, but I mean that's also the option. But I think the resources which I have told you will work.
Okay.
because in my project it was a requirement, and I was asked to create the DR for that and auto scaling with load balancing. I have
Hmm.
faced this. So I have faced a similar kind of issue in the cloud migration program. So there was an application, and the name of it was FirstNet GIS. So for that I had to create high availability with load balancing and disaster recovery.
Okay. I think you have worked on some migration related stuff also.
Yes, in Microsoft Azure. So migration depends actually what kind of scenario is there. So manually
Hmm.
I used Elastic Beanstalk to migrate the Java project. So in the Eclipse we had, I mean there were some data losses in our local repo. In KMG initially we had everything on-prem. So after investigation we found out that the Java developers using Eclipse, and there we had a plugin for AWS. So we installed that plugin, and using Elastic Beanstalk, the Java project I migrated to the cloud. In
Okay.
Amdocs,
If I talk about the migration, what could be your concerns before initiating the migration?
the concerns are that the first of all you should be very clear about a particular application. What are the requirements? What is will be the I mean for that we have to have a very huge discussions with the application team. After that we have discussions with our infra team, and we create target architecture for that. And for that particular application we have a detailed documentation what that application actually is, and in that detailed documentation it is written what is to be created, how is to be created, and in that way. And when we are creating the application, we don't migrate it blindly. First of all, we create a POC environment for that. So in total, as far as my project was concerned, there were five environments in which after the ADO onboarding, two were already created. So one environment is POC, and the full form of POC is proof of concept. So for after making the POC, we have to show to everybody that see this we have created, and the application will perform this after when we create the production environment. So that is why when you are doing migrations, always 3 to 5 environments are created, and POC environments are destroyed after the cutover of the application.
Okay, you are talking more about the process related stuff. I am
Mhm.
talking about the technical stuff that could be your concerns before a migration should take place. What could be the technical challenges, or what are the concerns do you see before migration? Any migration, server migration, database migration, or anything.
So my concern can be security related stuff, or the patching related stuff, performance related stuff, or the connectivity related issues. So these kind of issues I can imagine of, and that the issue topping the list is the security related issue, because hackers are
Okay.
always the place. So for that we can keep encryption in place, and we can do the multiple port forwarding, and use the firewalls and patching related stuff. So got it. So uh, if I talk about specifically about the on-prem server, so that maintenance activity is known as server hardening, in which there
Okay.
are 5 to 6 steps, and we do the patching and install server antiviruses, uh, and configure firewalls, and servers are in, if I talk about on-prem, are always created in the DMZ zone, and
Mhm.
they had a very different subnet, and we have a different interface at the firewall, uh, at in our server room. So this I
Okay.
have created in back in KMG. So
Mhm.
with there we had 50% on-prem servers. Not everything was migrated to cloud.
Okay. Okay. If I talk about Linux commands, uh, you know that whenever we run any particular command or a script in the Linux, it has some exit code, right?
Exit code.
Yes. Can we check what was the exit code of the last command or script executed on the terminal?
So whatever we did last, we use history command, but exit codes I have not come across till now. I mean, I have not checked.
Okay, you have never used it after checking the exit code. You have never used it in any scripting for any benefits. Okay,
Exit codes I never used till now. There was no such requirement.
okay. Uh, uh, if I talk about Kubernetes, are you comfortable with Kubernetes? Have you done some work?
End-to-end deployments, I never got a chance in the Kubernetes. So if I talk about the BSSC project that was involved in, I mean, deployed in Azure Kubernetes services. So sometimes Jenkins portal and other portals were not working. So we used to do some troubleshooting in the Kubernetes, and that was, I mean, the basic kind of troubleshooting. And other than that, I have beginner to intermediate knowledge of Kubernetes, not an expert one.
Okay, if I talk about the networking part, you have your initial experience into networking.
So
What
Kubernetes. So you are asking Kubernetes in, I mean, networking in Kubernetes or networking in general?
networking in general, but
Okay.
we all know that networking is same everywhere if we talk about the concepts. So if I talk about the layers, which at which layer load balancer work?
I think at the network layer,
Okay, what is that number?
3, routing, routing layer. I mean the network layer. A router works on net. I mean on the OSI layer, networking layer is the layer number 3.
Okay. How can you make sure a pod should run on a particular node?
For that, we can use that labels and selectors. We can assign particular labels and selectors to a particular pod and assign that to practically, I have not done that, but I am aware
Mhm.
that. So there are labels, but for the classification. But if you, even if you assign the label, so classification be difficult. If you want to assign a particular container in a very unique way, then use selectors
Okay.
and
Uh,
tie it to a particular pod.
okay. What is the init container and where we can use it?
So init container usage part, right now I don't remember. I have used it back 1 year back, init container. But init container is the first container which is run. But practical use right now I don't remember.
Okay. Mukesh, do you have anything else?
Yeah. Suppose in Kubernetes, one of the pods in a node, it goes down suddenly, and then how the other pods will connect to that pods.
How, I mean, if a pod is going down and other pod wants to access that pod.
Yeah, how the other pods will connect to that pods.
So if the pod is down, I mean, I didn't get this question. For the pod connectivity, we use cluster IP, and there are
Yeah.
virtual IP concepts.
Okay, so if a new pod will spin up again, so it will have the different IP, right?
Uh-huh.
How the other pod will get connected to that pod.
So it creates its own network, and using virtual IP, the pods are connected.
Okay. And what are the config maps in Kubernetes?
One is there. Config maps right now I don't remember. There are one secrets and config map concept, but I need to brush up that.
Means, so how much you have worked in Kubernetes till now?
So in BSSC project, I was used to do the troubleshooting, and in my cloud migration program, Kubernetes was not used. So back 1 year back, I used to do the Kubernetes part.
Coming up for the Linux commands, so how you can check the disk space in Linux?
du is the command. Du-h and the df-h. Those commands are used to check the usage, disk usage.
Okay, what is -h?
It's a human readable form.
Okay. Suppose you have to add your user to a Linux group like Docker. How you can do that?
User add command.
Sure. You have to add your user to a Docker group.
Doc. Okay, so we will create our credentials in the Docker app, and using Docker login we can log in the Docker app. But users I have created for the Docker, but right now I don't remember.
No, I'm asking that in a Linux server, you have a Docker group is there. So you have to add a user to a Docker group.
Docker group.
Yes.
So if you want to add anything to the group, so you group add is the command.
Okay, fine, no issues. So, hi Neeraj.
Hello.
Yeah, we are done with our part, so you can proceed.
So thank you. Okay, so I will take just 10 minutes, and as if you guys are done, finally facilitating job of have a conversation with Rishik, and then
Sure, sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you, Ritvik.
Thanks.
So sure, I have to leave or
no, you stay there. I will
Okay.
have a conversation with you, Rishik. So how are you, Rishik?
Fine, sir. What about you?
So just to help me understand your profile, could you please start with your introduction, your education qualification, and anything interesting that you
Yeah, there is a noise coming from behind.
so I can understand that is
Hello? Hello? Should I start?
moment I'm changing my headset.
Okay, okay. Voice is very low. Hello?
Is it better now? Can you speak?
Okay. Got it.
So yeah, just to help me understand your profile, could you please start with your introduction and education qualification, anything interesting that you have done in recent past?
So in the recent past, I have worked with Amdocs, and my client was AT&T, and I migrated 10 applications, in which 5 were end-to-end and 5 I had helped other engineers and contributed my part. And before that, I was working with KMG IT Services so I worked both for on-prem and the cloud. And before that, I was in Sysnet, so I worked on 2 projects. One was that SME, and one was value support. And other than that, on-prem network I used to handle. Before that, I was working with HCL Technologies, so I started my career there as a desktop support engineer, and then I moved to a project which was a DBR project that was a technical support. And then I did CCNA, and I was back in operations to handle the L1, L1 related stuffs of the network IT infra part. And my qualification is BTech with first division, and I passed out from Gurgaon Institute of Technology and Management back in 2016. And I did my schooling from Kendriya Vidyalaya and DAV Public School. And I live in Dwarka, Delhi.
Okay. So why you want to change your job, Ritvik?
So I was working with Amdocs on the payroll of Survey Software Private Limited. So the project in the cloud migration program in which I was working, that project got completed, and only the optimization tasks are left. So they could not fit me into any other project. So my vendor company intimated me that they are required to release me. So right now I am finding job and giving interviews in other companies.
The reason for change is no interesting work.
I mean, right now I am released from my previous company. So yes, that is obvious that I want to learn and grow more basically, and the main focus is on now on the DevOps part.
Before that, so in DevOps, what do? You deploy products, you build a CI/CD pipeline, or you build infrastructure?
I used to build the infrastructure as a platform engineer using Terraform, and the CI/CD pipeline, beginner to intermediate kind of work I used to do, because the whole team used to work as a single unit, and I was not wholly responsible.
And what are you looking for in your next profile?
So in the
DevOps
next profile, I am looking for core DevOps like Kubernetes and Docker and Jenkins. Terraform are the main of it, main focus. And if I talk about the monitoring, so my focus is on Node.js, Prometheus, and Grafana.
So, do you have experience in Docker and Kubernetes?
Yes.
Hands-on.
Hands-on, yes, hands-on experience, but end-to-end deployments I have not done.
Okay, so you have not done end-to-end deployment, but you can still work on that particular.
Yes, yes.
Got it. So, understand. And so, do you know about Dunnhumby and this role? Do you have any understanding about the role and Dunnhumby as a company?
So role and nobody told me. About the project, I am not intimated as of now.
What's your notice period basically here? Okay, so you already left the organization.
Yes, yes, yes. I am an immediate joiner. So
joined immediately. So that is fine. And the role that we are looking for is a IC role, individual contributor, and this is what even you are looking for.
Okay, okay. So what are the tools we will use there?
In tools we are using, so that Terraform is one of the core skill that we are looking for.
Okay, that I will be able to do. And what else?
Scripting, bash shell scripting is a day-to-day affair, I would say.
Okay, so I am a beginner to intermediate level, but if I got exposure,
so
I will do
I
it.
think that is something that my team can help me evaluate. So I'm just giving you the details of the tools that we use, and then they must have evaluated your technical skills from the fitment of the role point of view. So to help them, we use TeamCity, we use Octopus for CI/CD. We have Terraform for infrastructure deployment and provisioning. We do end-to-end deployment of the product. We provide the platform to the product to be hosted there. So we are responsible for platform and deployment of the product to the end user. End user is our client users.
Okay.
So this is what Docker, Kubernetes. These are the I would say that main requirement for us. So this is what in terms of tools. Prometheus, Grafana. I think this is for monitoring, but monitoring we have other options as well.
Okay. So monitoring part we don't have.
We have monitoring, but not a foolproof monitoring in place. That is what we need to work upon. So we have two levels of monitoring. One is application, the other one is infra. So two teams are responsible to take care of that one. We are just trying to figure out the gaps, and then we'll once we have that understanding, we'll have the robust monitoring in place. But in bits and pieces, everything is there.
Okay. And you are using Nagios or not?
Sorry?
Nagios.
Nagios infrastructure point of view, say there are people who are using this one. So we are basically we use open source.
Okay.
Okay, so anyone can have their own tool set to use. We have from the team point of view or the platforms and deployment teams point of view have not been using the Nagios. Also, so basically we do not use licensed software if we can. So we are more relying on the open source so that we do not have that licensing cost as an overhead on our products, like all infrastructure costing.
Got it.
So majorly open source and tool-wise, Octopus and TeamCity, they are licensed tool, which is what we use for CI/CD. So wherever there is a support, urgent support required, we go for the licensed software. Wherever there is something is not as such a urgent support required from the client point of view, we prefer the open source.
Oh.
Okay. So that's the case. Anything else you would like to know from?
Yeah. So regarding the project, you're doing end-to-end deployments, and okay. So what will is the job location?
Job location is Gurugram, and we are following hybrid model. So days office, 2 days home, 1 week office, 1 week home. Anything you can opt for.
So this will continue in the COVID time, or after COVID is over, we have to permanently go to office?
This model will at least stay for longer because this is what we agreed and mutual understanding. But yeah, offices are open. People has to come to office at least. Where minimum it's once in a week kind of is necessary from April onwards to people to come.
Okay. So in Gurgaon, in which sector it is located?
Sector 54, Paras Twin Tower, nearby or outside, adjacent to Sun City.
Okay, got it.
Where are you based out of?
Dwarka.
Dwarka. Okay, so
Dwarka, New Delhi.
This is not too far.
Yeah. It is just at the border, Gurgaon border.
So not be a problem for you to commute, but yeah, the thing is that you need to be ready.
Ready for what?
Ready to start the working from office because everyone is doing work from home.
Okay.
So that's, I think, is it the last thing you have to ask or you have other questions?
No, I don't have other questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks, Ritik. Thanks for your time.
Okay. Thanks. Have a nice day.
Nice day to you too. Bye-bye.